Hey homegirls, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be doing something very different. I'm going to be doing a get ready with me. I'm having a girls night out today with some of my co-interns, and also I'm going to be talking about my induction story. So I know a couple of you guys asked a little bit about that and how that process went, so I will be explaining that. So let's go ahead and get started. Just a really quick update though, I have been well overall. I started my first continuity clinic shift. I'm gonna run an elective called parenting elective. A few different pediatric residencies have it where you kind of do some online work, but it's really just about being a parent. It gives you time and flexibility to be at home while also learning a lot to be able to give to the patients and the parents of the patients that you're going to be working with. But it's really, really cool. Right now, I'm just using the Anastasia Beverly Hills brow pomade. I have been using this since it came out, and I never really switched up. I feel like my relationship with God has just been really good. Just really been focusing on prayer. I've been reading a bit. I've been listening to a couple of different audiobooks. And I may do a video about that too, just from what I'm learning and how my spiritual growth has been. Right now, one of the things I say is pressing for me is just really building community within my church here and supportive people to really give to me during this time with being a new mom, learning how to be a wife and a physician as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's definitely been a transition, learning to be away from my daughter. But speaking of her, let's go ahead and get into my induction story. Let's just start out by saying my daughter was initially due on July 4th. Or as some of you know, she was not born July 4th at all. Me and my husband, we moved down to Tampa around June 2nd. I went into full nesting mode and I immediately started feeling like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my house together. Everything needs to be perfect. So we unpacking. I'm running multiple errands a day to make sure the house is just perfect. I'm trying to get her nursery set up. I'm ordering her nursery furniture to come to this home and not our other one. I had my first appointment. I'm just blending out this concealer, you guys. Had my first appointment, everything went well. We did another ultrasound. They wanted to make sure all my records were transferred over. Y'all, everybody was so kind.
Let's go.
And I was just so encouraged. I was like, man, thank God, because it just felt like such confirmation that we were moving in the direction that God wanted us to be in. I love my beauty marks and freckles, but when I do my makeup, I need the face to just come together all in one piece. Even being a physician, it doesn't necessarily change the risk factors of being a Black woman at my age, 31, about to have a baby. So I definitely had some nervousness surrounding around that, but you know, I'm just like, hey man, we're gonna keep praying for the best. I want to say a week later, literally a week after we moved, I had my next appointment. So this is another Monday, you guys. I had my next appointment, and they took my blood pressure like normal, and my blood pressure actually came back elevated. And I was just kind of like, okay, whatever, you know, not a big deal in my mind, because I'm like, it's not that high, and it probably was just a bad read. Sorry guys, right now I'm mixing two different foundations to get my appropriate shade. But the two brands I'm mixing together is Kat Von D's and Infallible. I like full coverage. They retook it, it was still high. I'm like, And my OB comes into the room and she's like, oh, I saw your blood pressure was high. I'm gonna go ahead and retake it. My blood pressure was still reading on the higher end, especially for a pregnant woman with my risk factors for preeclampsia. So she said, you know, I am going to, she was like, I'm gonna have to send you to, you know, the OB triage at one of the local hospitals here. And because you are gonna be 37 weeks tomorrow, we will just induce you tomorrow. I said, what? I'm like, induce me to have the baby tomorrow?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In my mind, I was like, no. In my mind, I thought no, because I'm just like, I'm not ready. I haven't fully packed my hospital bag. My nursery isn't perfect. All of these reasons why I'm just like, ain't no way I'm staying in the hospital overnight. Like, y'all can't make me, but I'm gonna go to the triage though, just, you know, to make sure that I'm okay. One of the reasons I'm going into pediatrics is because adults are terrible patients, and I am one of those adults. We want to do what we want to do. Me and my husband, we went home, we grabbed our threw stuff into our hospital bags, literally both of ours. So next I'm going to go in with the Pro Conceal Concealer. I have a bunch of these, you guys. I'm going in initially with porcelain in the closest parts of my eye. Going with creamy beige, if you know the LA Pros, around it. Just a little warm sand to help me blend it when everything comes all together. So once I do my warrior paint with my concealers, I let it dry down a little bit so that when I do blend it out, it's not as runny. We came home, we didn't really talk too much to each other because we were freaking out. But anyway, we packed up our bags. We went ahead and went to the hospital, went to the OB triage, where basically you're placed into this room, kind of actually a decent sized room, but they're just monitoring you. So I had a blood pressure cuff on that took my blood pressure every either 10 or 20 minutes to kind of see where I was. And they also ran a couple labs just so that we could rule out the possibility of preeclampsia. So when the OB came in, she basically said that she wanted to start kind of inducing me overnight and easing me in since I'm going into 37 weeks. And I was just like, no, I want to go home. So we made an agreement that if my labs came back normal, that then I could come home and then I would have to return the next day at 10 a.m. to get induced. So we went home to kind of just prepare our minds, to kind of pray and just kind of process what all had happened and think about what was going on. And ultimately ended up telling our parents because, you know, they were expecting another 3 weeks. And so she was coming a little bit sooner and we like, this is the real thing. So now let's tell our parents so that they kind of get an idea to start heading to the area because the baby's coming. I'm gonna go ahead and start blending because I am losing time. And like I told y'all, I really do hate being late. I do. It doesn't mean that I'm never late. It just means that I really hate being late. I went in the next day at 10 a.m. and I had a beautiful room and I could see the water from my window and I was like, God, I know this is you. I don't know if I've talked about it on my channel before, but I love the water because it just reminds me so much of God and how infinite He is. And so other reasons why I wanted to come to Florida, but my view from the room was just so perfect and I was like, all right, I know God got us. His parents had flew in that morning. My mom was driving down. So yeah, we went to Chick-fil-A, went to the hotel, got to the room. The room was super beautiful. I loved it. So I met my first nurse and she was so cool, you guys. I wish I could tell y'all her name, but it may not even be, well, technically it's my business, but either way. She was just really great, just really catering to my needs, helping communicating to me what was about to happen. They offered me to do this thing. It's called a Foley bulb. How it acts, the mechanism of it is to place this bulb very close to the cervix, so it's acting like the head of the fetus engaging the cervix so that it starts dilating. And so essentially it's meant for that, like it's to help you along in the process with mechanical dilation via the Foley bulb. And then they fill it with saline and they leave it in for a number of hours or until it just falls out on its own. And I hated it, you guys. I hated it. This to me was the worst part of my process with the induction process. It was so uncomfortable. I kept using, like I had to use the restroom, like I had to pee, and it got to the point where like I couldn't actually pee. And so the last time I tried to go to the bathroom, y'all, that thing flopped out, slapped me on the leg, like it was giving me a high five. So I will say a word because I started at 1 centimeter. I was 4 centimeters dilated by I was 5 centimeters dilated by the end of my process with the Foley bulb. Anyway, I had to do an epidural, so they encouraged me to walk around. So me and my husband were walking around the hallways, and you know, I got the hospital gown on, and he keeps trying to like shut the back of it because everybody don't need to see these goodies. And then a nurse comes up with a hospital gown, like, oh, sorry, you're poking out in the back there. And I was like kind of embarrassed, but I was also kind of like, when you're going through the process of labor, like you really don't care about nothing. There was a point in time where they're like, hey, we're gonna start the pit. The pit is the Pitocin, so it's like to help with like uterine contractions and to kind of get the labor process going. So this is the first time I've been at a facility where you get to choose when you get your epidural. All right, so I kind of cleaned this up a little bit. Now we're gonna highlight. I have had this forever. Anastasia Beverly Hills Glow Kit. Contractions feel like very intense cramps. You think it's something you've never felt before, but it's like a feeling. It's like that very uncomfortable feeling. It slowly started coming on for me. But my overnight nurse was with me the longest. I want to say she started around 6 or 7, and p.m. and she was just the best. Like, she held my hand when I got my epidural and all of those good things, and I just really appreciated her so very much. But she was absolutely amazing. She was so sweet with just explaining to me what was next. She advocated for me when I had this one cervical check where I was like, this is way too intense. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm communicating I'm uncomfortable and I feel like they're not hearing me. And she made sure to communicate that when the physician came into the room. So, and I didn't even ask her to. Also, through the night with the Pitocin, they have this ball. It's called a peanut. It's literally shaped like a peanut. I'll see if my husband can like insert a picture. But anyway, you get the peanut ball and you're moving around in all of these different positions to kind of help, you know, bring the baby down and open the pelvis up and all those different things. So I am like getting flipped like a pancake, you guys. So here's my disclaimer, but this is my personal experience. Everybody talks about how terrible the epidural feels and things like that. It was uncomfortable, but it was not that bad. And I was like, I absolutely will do it again. It just wasn't as bad as I felt like a lot of moms had talked about getting the epidural. And once I got the epidural, I actually was able to get some real sleep through the night. So I was really grateful for that. Felt a little bit of weird nerve pain. I wish I could describe to you what the epidural feels like, but if you haven't felt anything like it, you wouldn't really know. But to be honest, the only thing that's really painful is that initial kind of like needle prick when they're trying to numb the area up so they can get the epidural done. And I can just relax. I feel like I can relax because the contractions wasn't kicking my butt. And at the time, they're still going with the Pitocin, increasing it every 30 minutes until I got to 20. That we transitioned into the morning time. The morning time, like, let's get the baby going. By this time, we're kind of pulling up to the 24-hour mark. But in my mind, I'm like, well, y'all said 2 days. So morning, y'all really think I'm ready? They come back, they check my cervix. I think I was like, I was a decent amount along, you guys, but I just started getting a little nervous. I started getting really scared, like, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna have to have the energy to like push this baby. So no, I'm not doing it. So I kept on telling them like, oh, they're not that bad. I'll tell them my contractions are not that bad, or it doesn't feel like they'll ask you like, does it feel like you have to poop, or it feels like you like have to push. I wouldn't necessarily say I felt that feeling, but the contractions were definitely like picking up. And I'm just putting it off like, I don't know if I'm ready to start pushing. So we just gonna play it cool for now. All right, blush is done. Which means I'm practically done with my makeup, y'all. It is 6:22, so clock that. Hello. Okay, you guys, so I'm fully dressed and I'm not wearing what I told you guys what I was gonna wear. I actually changed my mind and I put on something else because I just didn't feel comfortable in what I had on initially. I think that I left off with talking about my epidural. Right now I'm in the backseat, baby girl. Hello. It was morning time and it was about time for baby girl to kind of make her way on out to make her debut. And I wasn't ready because I felt so exhausted. Like, that's one thing I'll say. I felt super exhausted through the process. By the morning time, I ended up having 2 nurses. Both of them were pregnant, but they were taking care of me. And they were flipping and dipping me even more than my previous nurse with the peanut ball. The PA came in. It was the OB PA or MP, I'm not sure. She came in and she was like, I was 9 centimeters dilated. She was like, yeah, we can go ahead and start pushing. I said, what? No, I wasn't ready. I didn't say I was ready. Oh my gosh. But once I said start pushing, I didn't communicate that I was really nervous to anybody. I was like, it is what it is. So we got to pushing. We got to pushing. My legs are dead, so they're holding my legs. They're telling me like push, and I'm like, argh. And they had told me like, you know, don't put your strength into your face, like put it into your like abdomen and your pelvic muscles. And I'm like, how do I even do that? I have epidural. I can't feel anything down there. So I tried, and I think it worked. It started working because my husband was like, you're doing good, right, babe? So then it got to a point where I could feel like her head was half the way out, and I was like, this is mad uncomfortable, because when you push, it has to be a contraction. Where you would measure the head of the circumference of a baby, I could tell that that's where I was because it was the most intense pressure. With an epidural, you don't necessarily feel pain, but you do feel pressure, and it still can be uncomfortable. In my mind, because they told me to take a break after this, in my mind, I was like, nah, we're gonna keep pushing. So I started kind of pushing a little bit without like them like really knowing or like paying attention. And I remember the nurse practitioner or the PA who I had told me to like bring my knees in, and I like brought my knees in, and I'm like, and I pushed her all the way out. So it took me all of like 21 minutes. Babe, what was it? 27 27? What time did I start pushing?
I want to say...
I started pushing at 12:25. She came at 47.
Yeah, so something like that.
So it was 22 minutes. It wasn't 27 minutes.
Like
I knew it wasn't no 27 minutes. So the baby came out immediately. Boom, they flopped the baby on your chest, skin to skin, and I'm skin to skin, and I'm crying, and I didn't even expect to cry, to be honest. Overall, my experience having baby girl was amazing, and I would absolutely do it again, and I would do it at the same facility as well. So I also had a tear. If you get an epidural, you won't feel it. I didn't know that I had a tear until they told me. I guess I still had a little bleed, and it wasn't stopping. So the healthcare professional that I had as my OB was essentially just trying to make sure, like trying to figure out where the bleed was coming from. That once they came back out, they kind of messed up on the stitches, so they had to go in and re-stitch. But then the bleeding ended up stopping. Honestly, the scariest part for real was just, I felt like when things started getting a little sticky towards the end, I feel like they stopped communicating with me as much. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? I'm understanding the language of what y'all saying. And also, everyone that I worked with knew that I was a medical resident. Can't say that didn't have an effect on how I was treated or what my experience was like, but I honestly truly feel like the nurses that I had were just amazing, because they're just amazing nurses, and I'm really grateful for them. I had such a great experience, and I know oftentimes us as Black women don't have such great experiences because of all of the different risk factors and stuff with us having kids and having the highest maternal mortality rates and things like that. But I had a really great experience. That's pretty much it for my story. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll try my best to even insert just some photos from when baby girl came, like us in the hospital, because I've never actually like posted or showed any of those, so I'll try to put them in this video. So maybe I'll do a version where my husband gets to share like his perspective on like how the induction process went, because I feel like those can be two totally different perspectives. And if there's any guys watching my channel, y'all can definitely maybe get some tips or an idea of what that process is like with being a new dad and a first-time father and a first-time mom. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment down below. Like this video if you liked it. Tell me what else y'all want to see. But that is the end. I'll see y'all next time.